You know, I heard or read Leonard Cohen saying with his song Hallelujah that it took him 15 years to write. And I think he was juxtaposing himself to Bob Dylan, who would write a song in a day or however long it took. And with X Marks the Spot, it took me 20 years to write it. I had, and it was a journey. It was a journey, and I modeled it after, if it had a model, it wasn't after a Leonard Cohen song, it was after a Bob Dylan song, All Along the Watchtower, and the album John Wesley Harding, which has kind of biblical roots to it. And in that story, you know, made famous, the Jimi Hendrix version is, it's a conversation between the Joker and the thief, and they're kind of talking about, they're in this world gone wrong back in biblical times, and they're talking about, you know, the decrepit state of the universe, but how they're all, you know, their world view of it and how they're surviving in it. And I think with X Marks the Spot, it's a similar conversation between the barbarian and the merchant, and those first 4 stanzas kind of set the scene. You know, and the hook that really jumped in my mind, it's always, really the song originated with that opening line. The barbarian plunges into the Valley of Thieves. This won't take long, he says, as he rolls up his sleeves. So he has business to do. Here's a guy that lives on the frontier or past the frontier. He's going into this valley of peril, and he spits out the water, you know, his disdain for that valley. And then he meets the merchant, and the merchant's waiting for him. And the song really starts off as this kind of transactional, you know, a song about greed and avarice and just getting the deal done, just a world about money. And the merchant's so happy to see him, but then the barbarian gives it to him and says, you know, listen, your wicked ways, say your prayers now or later is fine. The fairness of sums will be levied in time. Drunk the milk of paradise and pluck the grapes from the vine. You know, the barbarian either comes from or knew of a place that this kind of utopian beyond the frontier, even though he works through the frontier, and it's burned in his brain, his mind, where the treasure is. He doesn't even need a map or anybody telling him, and that's what the merchant knows and loves about him. But the merchant like gives it right back to him. Yeah, I know you've traveled to places most men never know and sailed seas, but don't tell me of these places that doesn't exist. And you know, they're giving it back to each other, but it's almost like friends, you know, and that's where kind of the song stopped. And I'd always play with endings, and I had the first part of the ending down for the final stanza, and the final stanza is then, you know, you don't get something done till you need to get it done. And I think with this Campfire Park, I can put something to video. I write something in a binder, but nobody reads it. If you put it up on, you know, in a format people can digest, then it's like, okay, you have to nail it down. And I really did. It took 20 years to incubate, but it came in my mind. It's really a love story. And the barbarian, the merchant's arranging for the barbarian to meet the princess. The princess and the prince are in many ways kind of the main characters revealed at the end, and they're both given a choice, not flight or fight, but, you know, go off for salvation on what you love, or go down on, you know, fighting for the royalty, place, and time. So when the revolution rumbles, you know, the merchant, he's going to benefit. He's going to win no matter if there's a revolution or not. He can incite it, but he was able, through his inroads in the royalty, to make arrangements for the princess to meet the barbarian at the water's edge. That's the signal. That's the chaos erupts. That's her time to escape this, you know, life that for her was meaningless without love. And then, well, the prince stays back, and he's gonna defend that X Marks the Spot. So for whatever it takes. So, you know, this song starts off on that biblical parable of, greed and avarice, but I think it's really a love song in the end. And it's real. I think it's tightly written. And the thing, I've over the years, I've forgotten the lyrics to the song, and then I start singing them. And over the course of the day, to myself, it'll pop back in my head, and there's the barbarian and the thief talking to me, and and the princess and the prince and all of them. So anyhow, that's why I wanted to put the lyrics in the song. I felt like it was really kind of tightly constructed, and sometimes I sing it better than others. I think I sang a pretty good version, although on the bridge, my voice kind of falls apart. Anyhow, that's the story on X Marks the Spot. It's not a typical Bobby Angel farewell song. It's a song I had written just because I was, had the guitar and it kind of hopped in my head. And the barbarian, and I'm like, oh, it's interesting. I'm going to see where this barbarian's going. And we kind of all figured it out together, me with the characters. It took 20 years. Sometimes things take time.